If Burton Albion hadn't had the takeover from Nordic Football Group this season, I'd have probably been going into this campaign for them holding out very little hope, and they probably would have been bottom of the league if Ben Robinson had stayed as majority shareholder in my 1 to 24s. But I think the Nordic Football Group represents a massive source of hope for the Staffordshire club, because not only is there going to be fresh capital provided by Chairman Ole Jakob Strandhagen, but also there's going to be some fresh ideas, a bit more strategic impetus as well, which is something that I'm really excited to see, especially from sporting director Bendik Hareide. And Fleur Robinson returning as CEO is a massive plus as well. Burton Albion have been very active in the transfer business, in transfer market so far, as they look to evolve their style under a new head coach in Mark Robinson, who was relegated with Wimbledon in his last time with senior football, but is a very highly regarded coach in the coaching scene, and was previously at Chelsea under 21s. So, can Burton Albion finally make progress and become sustainable in League One? A huge ask for a club of their size, but they seem to have given themselves a route towards that sustainability. But staying up is going to be a big ask this season. Are they up to it? Well, that's what we're going to try and find out in this summer deep dive. Yes, welcome along to the latest EFL Debate Summer Deep Dive, one of 72 we're doing across the EFL between mid-June and mid-July. Already the full set for League Two uploaded to YouTube and Spotify, so do give us a subscribe. A few for League One as well. For now, delighted to be joined by Ed Walker, who's an expert on all things League One and Two, and a brewer as well. Ed, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good afternoon, Gav.
Yeah, cheers. This takeover gives Burton Albion some real hope and belief as a football club that they can start to try and grow within League One.
It's been the most significant summer at this club for, I'm trying to work out the number of years. It's beyond my lifetime. We're probably looking 30 plus years whenever Ben Robinson took over the second tenure, which I think was 1995. So we're going back a really long period here. There's just been a massive buzz around the place. It's really hard to ignore it. We had a welcome event yesterday at the Pirelli Stadium where 1,000 people were in attendance, chance to meet the new owners, meet the new board, catch up with Ben again, have a talk with Mark Robinson, the new manager, and Bendik Hareide, the sporting director, and meet a large chunk of the new squad, including all the new signings, which is a full 11 worth of signings itself. There's been so many so far already. I think it's tricky. Naturally, we are as football fans, we like to be quite optimistic. It's kind of hard to stay grounded in this moment here, because you're looking at everything coming on. Everything's so shiny and new, and there's promise of all kinds of things coming down the line. It's not just going to be on the pitch work promised at this club. It looks like it's going to be off the pitch work down the line as well. So it's trying to stay grounded and realize as well that this is an horrendous League One this year. I'm sure you and I both agree. The top six battle is going to be epic this year in League One. I'm not saying Burton are in that, but it's going to be really fun to watch that from a neutral perspective.
Definitely.
And just recognizing that, yes, it's exciting to see what we do, and there's clearly new methodology this way that you think will take them away from this period they've been in of floating down the bottom in the league. But at the same time, be grounded. Don't start suddenly think we're going to flip our fortunes around and do like what Steven and Giancarlo did in League Two, for instance. It's intriguing at the minute, and I think, are we probably the hardest team to call now in this league? Can I call us that? Because I think you and I would have both agreed, as you said in your intro, if it had been as we are, I probably would not want to be on this right now, because we've been talking quite down.
Ed, I would probably say Reading are the hardest team to call in League One.
Yes, okay, that's the fair throw.
But yeah, Burton are definitely up there. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying with that, but it's all shiny and new, and I guess your opinion on Burton at the minute kind of depends on how you look at everything and think, is that going to click straight away, or is there things that aren't going to click yet straight away?
Yeah, absolutely. Burton Albion having a sporting director, I don't think you've ever had a title of that at the club before. How big a step is that going to be from an operational point of view, bearing in mind that the club had barely been able to afford things like physios and just standard backroom staff in the previous regime because the funds had been so tight?
Yep. Bendik's the one who fascinates me most out of the four that come in. Out of Tom, Ola, and Kevin as well. Kevin's come in as commercial director. Ola's taken the chairman role. Tom Davidson, who seems to be the main voice of NSG themselves, has taken the deputy chairman role. I feel like he probably should be having Ola's job because he feels like he's the most vocal one within that group. But Bendik's the one that really intrigues me because, as you say, sporting director, a role that Burton not had before. I feel like the role between a sporting director tends to make or break the season with the one they have with the head coach. This sporting director head coach role, you see examples of it across the Football League where it works beautifully, creates something great. And then there's also ones where they don't see eye to eye and it creates a real problem in the season. So you would like to think that because this is the first one, those two have kind of be brought in through each other. You would certainly think, especially with Robbo being brought in to take the head coach role. Hearing from Bendik was really good yesterday. I quite like that there seems to be a data-driven approach to his recruitment, which I think maybe justifies some of the signs that I've seen so far that I initially saw come in and thought, not that big on that, but it's clearly a mindset of bringing in some that we know will have an instant impact now and others that are seen as having really high quality potential with what they've got because it's such a young group that's been brought in as well. Most of these players are on long-term deals in their early or towards mid-20s. So yeah, this is the challenge to Bendik now. It's one that he'll be judged on very quickly. You know, people are very quick to judge how teams go in the season. If we have a slow start like we've had the last 2 seasons, I'm sure there'll be some questions about whether we should have brought more, maybe with a bit more League One pedigree, because quite a lot of these are coming up from League Two or some other leagues without a huge amount of League One pedigree behind them at the moment. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we will. I think you mentioned there the relationship between the sporting director and the head coach. What I think I'm quite encouraged by is that Mark Robinson's main background is really in coaching.
Absolutely.
That's what he did for a long time at Wimbledon. That's what he's done at Chelsea. I suspect that based on the fact his ability to improve players individually as well, like he's done with Jack Rodoni and Ayub Assal at Wimbledon, I actually think that's probably where he's going to be happiest, on the grass, on the training field. I can't imagine that Mark Robinson's going to be wanting to spend hours on the phone to people trying to do deals.
Yep.
That's not what I would think. So I think it's going to really benefit Mark Robinson having a sporting director there, which he didn't have at Wimbledon as well, which I think is really important to point out. Formation, we spoke off air, Ed, that Mark Robinson might be recruiting for a 4-3-3. I mean,
it sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, I initially thought it was going to be a back three formation because you signed Udoka Godwin Malif, who I would often think of as a specialist outside centre half.
I agree.
But 4-3-3 with Elliot Watt, I guess, being the conductor is the plan.
Yeah, it brings up a couple of... I know there's been 11 signs already, which feels like a lot, but I also look at that team at the minute and think it doesn't look quite ready for a 4-3-3 yet. There's a couple of things for me with that. The main one is the wide positions. I'm not particularly big on the winger options in this team at the minute. There's Ben Whitfield, which I'm really happy with. I think that's an excellent signing to have some wide positions. His delivery of the ball really has been exceptional the last couple of years at Barrow, so happy to see him get the step up and have the chance here. But then the other wide option... Julian Larson kind of played left wing for Morecambe. I don't really think of him as that kind of... I didn't particularly think much of him in that Morecambe spell last time, whether he maybe is more of a centre forward alternative to Orsi or actually developed into a left forward. We'll have to see. Roman Burrell, likewise, I think has featured in wide positions, but was mainly male striker, I think, at Cove Rangers, particularly. So there's a bit of work with those wingers. And then the fullback situation's a bit odd because the defence is basically made up of centre-backs at the moment. I think the only... what you consider natural fullback / wingback in there in Tom Hamer. And I've never really warmed to the idea of Tom Hamer as a fullback anyway. He's an extremely unique player, got a very unique skill set. I've always kind of looked at him and thought, you look more like a central defender playing out wide whenever he's been in that position. It's just something about the way he's built, the way his game is.
And yet it's not as if he's that tall, though. That's the funny thing.
Oh, he's fairly tall, Gab.
Is he?
He's over 6 foot. He's definitely over 6 foot. Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Because I just remember he came through at Oldham as a right centre-back. And I just always kind of thought that was where his game was going to be for Burton. He's ended up being deployed more as a wing back, which has always felt a little bit clunky to look at. Mainly because I have a preference for fullbacks that are very dynamic, and that's not really his out-and-out game.
Sure.
And then so him potentially on the right-hand side. I mean, a girl Godwin Relief could play right back. I agree with you. I kind of see him more as like the right side of a back three, but there is that right back option there. Left back at the minute is probably Jason Schraha, who's a really big left-footed defender, a bit like Ryan Sweeney. And I
would definitely see him as a centre-back playing at left back.
Exactly. I think it would look quite clunky out there. So I imagine there are fullbacks still to come. That'd be the way. I don't think we're done with the business yet, certainly, it feels like. And then the second thing for me, I'm not quite sure the makeup of this midfield yet. There's definitely Elliot Watt in there, who was the first one through the door. Probably my favourite of the signing so far. I absolutely love Elliot Watt as a deep line player. You know, we've been trying to replace Terry Taylor the last 12 months, had Joe Powell sat there, which kind of worked, but then it kind of got a bit stale after a while, and it felt like you had an attacking midfielder who kind of went back there by chance and was being forced back there when really probably should have let him go a bit further forwards.
Whereas, Ed, Elliot Watt is very much...
That's his game. It's his bread and butter. Exactly.
Yeah,
he admits himself. He's not a goal scorer. I get the ball. I play it to people further forwards. Perfect. That's absolutely fine.
Do you know what? That's the thing, because I think people might look at Elliot Watt's assist numbers from 22-23 and think, he might be better further forward. But actually, a lot of those were like set pieces or deliveries from deep.
That's
and
absolutely
stuff
fine.
like that. He's not really someone you want. I think you want him on the ball as much as possible. Let's be honest.
You kind of want that link. You want that link between the back line and the midfield into the next third, don't you? Really? That's what.
Yeah, totally. And the way he switches the play and the fact that he's brave on the ball as well, I think is going to be really important, because for Burton Albion to be able to implement this style in such a demanding league, the 6 is such a crucial position. And I'm delighted for you that I think you've got the right one.
100%. And then it's the question really what comes up further ahead. I mean, Charlie Webster, I'm particularly excited for. Not seen a lot of him in person, but the reviews are so good out of Chelsea. And the fact that's one of those, I think you realise we've had a new takeover, because that does not happen under the previous regime. That kind of deals with Charlie Webster. But then the third man, potentially. I mean, Alex Bannon's someone who can go in there. I've not seen a lot of him in Queen's Park, but he seems someone who can go whether in the central defence or into midfield. Geraldo Badrami is a bit similar, but we haven't seen him for a year. He's just had that long injury. And I think there's a lot of Notts County fans quite surprised that he's gone up a league on the back of what's just been seen. That, again, feels like one of those where Ben Dickers basically looks at the potential rather than necessarily what is there now. So if there is Webster and Watt in this midfield, where's the third man, that kind of prime creator? Because I'm thinking back to the last great midfield we had of like Scott Fraser, Jamie Allen / Ryan Edwards and Stephen Quinn. Ideally, it's Mark Helm, who's currently a free agent. I have not heard anything about this at all. I don't know what the situation is. His contract was up at the end of June. Currently a free agent. If he re-signed, that's perfect. I think he just takes that kind of creator spot and it'd be ideal. I don't know. At the minute, you have to say he's not here because he's not currently under contract. So I think there's still that third spot to go in.
Yeah, David, by the way, fantastic insight, by the way, David, on Burton Albion. So you've got to go and follow him at David WT 1997. He said, I think the 4-3-3 was tongue in cheek. So it's possible that we've kind of misinterpreted that a little bit, because it's probably quite unusual for a manager to reveal his formation plan. So maybe I've been sold a little bit there. But Owen says it was fantastic last night. So a very encouraging evening for the club in terms of sharing.
And I would say on that, even if it was going to be 4-3-3, there's still no left wing back for me. I don't want someone like Thomas Karnauskas there. No, don't want that at all.
No, I
fullbacks,
agree.
wing backs is something that needs to be addressed. And hopefully,
I mean, I think if it was a back four, I wouldn't mind Udoka Godwin Malief playing there. But to be honest, I think for either formation, I'd probably want specialist fullbacks or wing backs playing there.
Certainly.
So we'll see. But yeah, like you say, the reviews on Charlie Webster suggest he's going to be the more dynamic midfield partner to
Just like the box-to-box kind of presence,
in
the mould of what we had with Jamie Allen and Ryan Edwards previously, which are both great players.
Oh, I loved Ryan Edwards.
Yeah, you do.
Every time you mention him, I'm gonna.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know what the situation Mark Helm is. I hope they put the offer down and just said, "What do you want?" I hope that's the case. It'd be a great, fantastic.
Do you know what, Ed? Could you imagine Mark Helm if he can rediscover his second half of the 22?
This is what you bring Robinson in for, Gav. Mark Helm in this style. Exactly. This is what you bring Robbo in for.
Yeah,
he's the exact kind of player. I don't know. We'll have to see with that. I don't know what the situation with him.
You know what, Ed? I'm kind of getting excited about the idea of what Webster and
Helm midfield. I said it when Webster signed. I want that midfield 3. So,
now you're talking.
Please, I want to see Mark Helm re-sign a deal, but we'll see.
Come on, Mark. You know what to say. So centre-backs then. You brought in Jason Schraha from Shrewsbury Town. Some decent reviews there. On Alex Bannon, who you mentioned earlier, I had some comments. Let me give it a moment to find. Yeah, someone who supported Queen's Park has said he's a centre-back, not a midfielder. But Joseph, who's I think another Queen's Park fan, said decent young player, good technically, but comes up against bigger striker and you can expect to ship a few. So what I'm thinking, Ed, is if you play, so maybe Alex Bannon is going to be better in defence than in midfield, but if you play him in defence, you're going to need to have a physical centre half alongside.
That's where Ryan Sweeney comes in, or Jason Schraha, less sided. Yeah.
So I'm thinking if Bannon plays, you're going to need Sweeney or Straha. Where do you think Ryan Sweeney can fit into this change of style under Mark Robinson, Ed?
This is what intrigues me a little bit, because some of the old guard that remain, people like Jasper Moon, Ryan Sweeney, you don't really think of them as ball playing defenders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've been built into a team that, let's be honest, the last years has just been very no nonsense at the back. It's maybe been a couple of times where they've tried to like have it short from Crocombe and then try and build from there, but ultimately it's always been about just get your defensive duties done, get your clearances in place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. People are kind of wondering if the players that weren't there yesterday are not going to be there permanently. People are kind of putting everyone creates the theories around this kind of thing. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I recall that there wasn't people like Mason Bennett or Jasper Moon there yesterday. Whether that means they're off somewhere else or Tom Haley wasn't there.
I mean,
don't know.
you've always got to kind of you can't always take these things absolutely.
You can't. It was also a very small stage, Gavin. I did not want any more players up on there because that stage would have broken if there'd been any more.
Yeah. For sure. But, people might have had family engagements or they might have had a wedding to go to or whatever. So you never quite know some of these things. But I agree. You can maybe imply a little bit of doubt, to an extent. Bajrami, Ed, what are you thinking about that signing?
I really don't know. We haven't seen him for a year. There were quite positive thoughts about him heading up to the National League from Notts County. I can't remember the exact number of appearances he was restricted to last year by that injury, but I think there certainly was a bit of surprise from a Notts perspective when he made a move one league. He's one of these, I guess, a little bit like Kalinowski and Larson, where Bendik has recognised that there's some potential in him to be quite good and not necessarily sure on what level he's at right now.
Well, I think the Kalinowski signing might have been a Mark Robinson one because he worked with him at AFC Wimbledon briefly. So I think that might be behind that one. So again, it's a bit of a wild card addition that. But Bajrami I've always thought of as being a bit of a tough cookie as well. He's got that versatility; he can play in centre back or midfield. And then you still got Jasper Moon under contract
at the moment. Yeah, it kind of feels like to me, you would have said the logical starting partnership, especially now Hughes has gone, would have been Sweeney and Moon. I don't know the situation now. It maybe Sweeney has a direct competition now with Jason Straw, who's basically the same kind of player. Moon's got your choices of Bajrami, Bannon, maybe Godwin Malith. I'll be really keen to see when those first two preseason games come around the end of July who's actually playing there at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, what interests me, Ed, is as things stand in terms of players under contract, you got Jason Straha, you got Alex Bannon, you got Udoka Godwin Malith, you've got Geraldo Bajrami, you got Ryan Sweeney, and you got Jasper Moon.
Yeah.
Now, those are 6 players you can play at centre back. So I'm wondering if you were to play with a back 4, you'd end up having too many. Granted, some of the players under contract, like you say, might not necessarily be there, but it feels like even 5 centre backs who are at a decent
it does feel like they're very stuck in that area. I agree. It hints towards being more than 2 central defenders, really, doesn't it? It hints towards being more than 3. I mean, Moon has got the versatility across the back line. He's always a bit auxiliary in a fullback role. I've never really been that keen on it. I always wanted him to have a go in the heart of defence, but maybe now if there is a 3, especially because Hughes has gone, now that Braithwaite's taken a step back and gone into the coaching staff, there is a spot for him in there potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also wondering actually about the possibility of playing a back 3, but also having this system where there might be a more defensive midfielder. Possibly Bajrami might be able to do this role where someone drops into the defence when one of the centre halves goes forward. So, for instance, someone like Godwin Malif who's going to want to drive forward, or Bannon, possibly, if he's quite good technically, he might want to progress the ball forward, and then you might have a midfielder dropping back in. I'll be quite interested to see that sort of pattern of play and how that might come together.
Got to be honest, Gab, I have absolutely no idea what we're going to do. I haven't got a clue. We can and ah about this. We're having quite a wait till the first preseason game. Robbo wants a lot of time with them just gelling together in training before the first preseason game on the 20th. So we've still got a couple of weeks left to see these boys in action, and hopefully by then they can announce a new kit, which would be quite nice. This takeover's delayed quite a lot of things so far, so we've actually known our regular season fixtures before the preseason ones. It's just been that kind of summer at the moment.
Yeah, mental. So Danilo Orsi, then, Ed, you must be delighted to have that one in.
Danilo Orsi is the biggest evidence to me that we're changing style of play. because we cannot play the way we've done the last 4 years and have him up top.
Oh God,
There's
yeah.
just no point.
Imagine.
There's
Oh,
just no point in having it. No.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. It is. I think it comes with question marks. He has to. Last year was exceptional. It is really the only one he's had at EFL level. This is a guy who was seen as quite prolific at non-league level. Had a go at a couple of Football League clubs with Harrogate and Grimsby. Recognised as a bit of a workhorse striker without that exceptional output. Lindsay nailed it with him last year. And I would basically say we need to do everything we can to be like Scott Lindsay's Crawley and just let him be his thing, because he was a top-class poacher last year. That, works perfectly for him.
And don't be like Scott Lindsay's Crawley in terms of selling all your best players.
No. Let's hope that doesn't happen in this summer. No.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited about Orsi. I think his agility as well, his ability to create chances for himself around the edge of the box, so seems to be a really exciting thing. So I can't wait to see how he gets on.
It's what leaves me a bit curious, because obviously it'll be about the support around him. And there's obviously great support with Whitfield, but I'm not sure what else there is alongside that at the minute. Where's the playmaking midfielder? Who's that other wide supporting thought that's going to be effective for that? So I think Orsi's got quite limited supply at the moment, and I'd like to be quite keen to see where someone like Roman Burrell, for instance, fits into that system. Because I don't know if it's going to be a lone striker or if it's going to be a pair with him as a partner. I don't know yet.
So he was at Grimsby as a youngster, and then he went to Middlesbrough, and then I think he went to Scotland. But I've never really seen Roman Burrell.
No, I think he had a very brief loan at Bradford as well.
Bradford, right, okay. Well, like you, I've got no idea. Jake said,
"Shockhead has no idea." Shut your face, Jake. See you on opening day. He's scared now. He was looking forward to opening day. Now he's realised 2 ambitious clubs. It's going to be quite fun opening
day. David said, I reckon there's still 6 to 8 more signings to come in personally. Full reset has been needed, and they seem to be going all out. Some of those contracted could well be leaving the club too. So we've mentioned that we think Mason Bennett, could be on his way out.
I just don't think Tom Hamer fits this mold of what Robinson's trying to do. I just don't think Hamer's a Robinson player. That's why I'm quite curious with that.
Kieran Gilligan, do you think he's going to fit in?
Maybe Kieran Gilligan. I don't know. Gilligan's been one on the periphery for quite a while. Who's occasionally made appearances and looked quite good. The tenacity in midfield, but I would say that tenacious midfield role kind of feels like Webster's. So I don't know the situation with that. Likewise, some of the youngsters like Thindelap, Jakub Niemczyk as well. NSG have spoken so much about how much they want to grow this academy because there is potential with it. Burton I mentioned it yesterday. This isn't a takeover where you're coming into a club and completely saving them because they're at rock bottom and in desperate need of saving. Burton have always had really solid foundations. There's a modern stadium in the Pirelli. They've got top-class facilities in St George's Park for training in the academy. They've always been run well by Ben Robinson. These guys are essentially just coming in and enhancing things, just adding more budget into the mix to do things on and off the pitch. So there is plans to work at the academy. I've always felt a bit frustrated that we produced academy guys who will kind of have a little bit of impact at the back end of the season and then just be let go.
Yeah, like that happened with Ben
Radcliffe and Lati Fairweather as well was the same a couple of years ago, and I think it was under
Played at Cheltenham, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, he was good at wing back, and then just let go, just move straight on.
Yeah. Okay, so we're thinking Tom Hamer's a bit of a doubt. We're not sure where.
I feel like the only real certainty at the minute for staying from the original crop, to be honest, feels like Max Crocombe at the minute, who is the unstewed number 1.
Oh yeah.
There is a backup goalkeeper who needs to come in. Could be anyone. Might be a loanee. Might be someone permanent. There's some theories going around, but I think there's one senior goalkeeper on the books at the moment, and obviously that will change.
Talk to me about Max Crocombe then. Super Max Crocombe in goal.
Can't go wrong with him. You can't go wrong with him. You can't go wrong. I mean, I remember 12 months ago, we thought it was the backup to Jamal Blackman. Blackman started the first 2 and a bit games of the season, got injured at Shrewsbury Town. Crocombe went in, hasn't looked back, and he's just been, he's part of the reason we're still in League One. Let's be honest with that. He's the reigning player and Players' Player of the season, which says a lot about your campaign if your goalkeeper wins it, but he does richly deserve as well. And he's come back from New Zealand as an OSC Nations Cup winner with New Zealand, Golden Glove winner there, and he's shaved his head. So Skinhead Crocombe is going to be a lot of fun this year.
Absolutely. Hopefully he can maintain the status quo.
He said himself, speaking yesterday, actually, he had a little interview with him during the players section. He's basically turned to Orsi and said, I want you to be more the topic rather than me this year. Because it was a lot about the goalkeeper last year in the defence compared to what the front line offered. I think our top scorer had 5 goals last year. We scored less than a goal a game on average. It really was a bad season last year,
Yeah.
Gab. And I still don't quite understand how we're in this league, but we've somehow done it.
I'm so pleased for you that you've got. Listen, you've done really well to battle to survival over numerous seasons. I think that's got to be recognised. But I'm really delighted that you've got a real plan in place that's going to be sustainable.
100%.
Because I think that's really important. David says. Crocombe, Sweeney, and Gilligan were all at the event last night, and I think the only survivors from last season. Calling it now, Ryan Sweeney will be captain next season, as he has worked with Robbo for years before. Oh, I wonder where he worked with Robbo, because he was at Chelsea, and then he went to Wimbledon. Did he work? Anyway, not sure. So that'll be interesting. And then Tom has said, I think Walker, Bennett, and Kegschuk will be going. Will Moon, Hamer, and Harper be sold too?
I feel like Harper's potentially one because he's Watt's spot for me. You know what? It's him and
Watt's
Watt
got a longer passing range, I think.
And also, I don't like how Harper slows the play down. He has this habit of hesitating after his first touch just to kill the momentum a little bit when you want him to play a bit quicker.
Yeah, but also I don't think Raheem Harper's got that diagonal in him, whereas I think Elliot Watt has. So he's basically Elliot Watt without the diagonal. So that's a very simplistic term of it, but I agree. I think that'll be interesting to see. Where are we with Jasper Moon? Because he's proven before, certainly under Dino Maamri, that he can be one of the better defenders.
Well, we just spoke before, didn't we? Really, I think there is maybe an opportunity for him now, especially with Hughes and Braithwaite out of the team, who felt like the regulars ahead of him in that position, and he was getting shunted out wide to kind of a full-back, wing-back role. But yeah, again, he's got a lot of centre-back competition now. He's the more senior figure in there now at, I think, 23, 24, whatever age it is. But it depends if Robinson wants a strong ball player, because I don't think we've really seen his ability as a ball player yet.
No, that'd be really interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see which of those go out and who gets cashed in on. So there might be still a bit more movement. David reckons there's going to be 6 to 8 more signings.
We just had that one.
Oh yeah, we've had that one. Himself. But I wanted to actually look at in terms of what's needed. We're thinking another goalkeeper. I think definitely a couple of fullbacks / wingbacks.
Yes, definitely.
I'm thinking pretty good for strikers at the moment.
I would say so, yeah. Creative midfielder, and I would say if there is going to be a sort of 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, clear out and out wingers, because it kind of feels like at the minute they're forwards that can play out wide rather than out and out wingers outside of Whitfield.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would kind of suit her. If you want to play a front three, you could get away with someone like Julian Larson playing wide in a front three. But I think Julian Larson wide in a 4-2-3-1 maybe might not be quite right. So you'd need maybe more of a classic winger, but then someone who could also play as a wing back if you're planning to flip formations. Yeah.
It's so difficult because we don't know the foundation we're built on here.
I know, yeah.
We don't know what it is. We kind of are we covering all bases here? I know he's talked about this idea of being quite flexible and adaptable with the formation, which is good, but it kind of feels like the central spine has kind of been built into this team, but not so much the wide positions at the moment.
Yeah, I think the wide positions probably need some strengthening. So, Ed, what's the biggest reason do you think to believe that Burton Albion? Well, first of all, what is the expectation for Burton? Is it avoiding a relegation battle?
Depends who you ask, I think.
I'm asking you.
Depends how many people are watching in. I think I said at the start, I'm trying to stay quite grounded in it this year, recognising that League One this year is horrendous. And I don't think I've seen League One this hard ever, I would say. You know, we always say, Gab, the hardest thing to do with predictions is the bottom 4. I wish you the best of luck this year because this is horrendous. This is going to be a very difficult one this year, and particularly annoying because I'm pretty sure we would have been your 24th candidate.
Easily, yeah.
We've ruined it for you already.
Thanks
I would certainly say consolidating the place in the league, current survivors starting again. If they could have a year away from the relegation battle, fantastic, because it's been the last couple have been quite nervy.
Mhm.
A sign of progress is what I primarily want
Yeah.
on this third season.
Also, I think you want to kind of go into the running, ideally 16th or above, so that you're able to continue playing that way. Whereas I think if you're in a relegation battle and it gets a bit nervy around March and April time, you sort of the style can kind of go on the back burner. So it'd be nice if you're able to preserve the style over the whole season, and hopefully with a full pre-season you can do that. David says, give me a 14th to 18th place finish now, and I'm happy. We'll see. So, what's the biggest reason to believe, Ed, that Burton Albion will meet their ambitions this season?
Everything's shiny and new. They speak so vocally about this new team at the back, because I've felt the last 2 years really, since losing Nigel Clough, who was so integral to just everything, just made everything work so well. He was so active within the setup that they've become quite old-fashioned in a lot of their methods. They've lost their edge over others, which used to be they just did everything better against teams with better resources. They just did things smart, and now those teams are coming into League One, other divisions with better resources, and just use it better than Burton do. And they've been quite old-fashioned with a lot of their methods. Their recruitment's always been a bit odd. It's very manager-focused, never been quite consistent with it. Ben Robinson had lost that Midas touch with managers he used to have, where he just used to be able to consistently pick up gems. The last few of let's face it, have had nothing better than a short-term impact, and Patterson was very close to not even having a short-term impact. Let's be truthful with that. So this new setup now, the sporting director, a very modern approach now, this Scandinavian influence, just the whole new look around the place, just the new ambition that's being shown. Ambition is one thing, obviously. You know how much I hate the phrase "he speaks well," but
but I like people who speak well.
You do like people who speak well.
I do like good interviews. I know they don't.
There are
I know
positive.
it's like it doesn't mean anything, but I'm like, oh, he speaks quite well. Like every time.
It is always the case. Everything feels very bright, very positive at the minute. I don't know. They're keeping very in-house about what their actual expectations are themselves as a squad and as a unit, but it certainly feels like they intend to go in a forwards direction, but steady is the idea I get from their mindset. It's all about taking this club forwards, recognizing the potential that's in it, but doing it in a way similar to what Ben Robinson always used to do, which never allows them to get into deep financial peril or anything like that. So I think we have a steady first season, see where we're at, and then we look to progress from there. And the aim, really, for me, I think, is progression every season from now on.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not always realistic, because sometimes you might have a season where you've lost all your best players, and you might.
It'll always be the target, though, won't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That'll be the interesting thing as well, Gab. I'd say the staying power that used to be here, because I think about the last couple of impactful ones they've had. If, for instance, say Danilo Orsi had an Adebayo kind of season and scored double figures in half the season, past Burton would not be able to keep him. He'd be gone by January. There might be a release clause or some kind of deactivator that would let him go. Do they have that power now to keep hold of these people? Say Charlie Webster just excelled in midfield instantly straight away, and there were Championship or top end League One clubs circling around. Do Burton have that power now to be able to keep him in place? That's something we'll find out online, I hope.
Well, do you know what? I think it's not even about just keeping players. I think it's about not selling at the first offer and getting the maximum value. Like Exeter City have sold players, but they've sold players at the right times and for the right prices. And I think that's crucial to sustainability, because sometimes it's not always realistic to just keep your best players and let their contracts run out. You want to sell them when their value is high, but not before then. So hopefully Burton can sell at the right times. So, Ed, I've asked you for the biggest reason to believe. What's your biggest reason for doubt?
Everything's shiny new and no one knows if it's going to work. Is the basic answer, really. We have a sporting director who I think new to English football. We have a team that's new to English football. You have a head coach in Robinson, who a lot of people I think remember see the appointment and went, well, didn't he get relegated with Wimbledon? So
Sure.
what's this about? This is the way people still have that recent memory of him from that perspective. There are some people I've seen who have looked at the business of Burton so far and said, you look a bit like what Wimbledon did under Robinson. You're buying very young here, which might work great for a fast start, but over time, that lack of experience in key areas will come back to haunt you, especially now with Brayton out of the team. I think the most experienced figure in there is probably the goalkeeper now in Crocombe.
Yeah. I mean, I
puts a lot
think
onto
Brayton's
Sweeney to
going to
be.
be I think Brayford's going to be a great addition to the coaching staff.
Absolutely.
And I think that's great news for him. Delighted for him that he's on the coaching staff. I do think that in terms of his playing style, he wouldn't have really fitted in.
We just have basically, it's the same reason for optimism, Gab, is we have no idea what's about to come now. This might all click beautifully and create something really good that takes them even further away from the relegation battle and flirting with the idea of being up in that top 6 battle this season.
Oh, blimey, Ed. You've been on something
I'm just saying it could be the case. Or this doesn't work. Players don't have the impact you want it to. The system doesn't work right. They haven't recruited. Benedict Areda's ideas with these recruitments don't prove to be the right thing. He's picked up players that are, quite frankly, still League 2 level and not ready for League 1 yet. And it all goes badly wrong and they find themselves down the bottom end. I would never know what to place Burton this year because I don't know it. I think it literally comes down to your own personal judgment on it.
There you go. So too early.
Don't ask me for a prediction. I'm not doing it.
I know. I said too early for a prediction, but give me a number, Ben. Ed. What? Ed.
Ben? Who's Ben, Gab? What are we doing here?
I don't know. I'm thinking of Ben Robinson. Right. Anyway, give me a number, Ed, between 1 and 10 to denote your level of optimism. 1 and 10 to denote your level of optimism that your ambitions are going to be realised.
I would say right now 8, assuming 10's the top level.
Yeah,
we're going that way. I'd go 8. I think there's reasons to be happy. I've got to say, when that season finished at Fleetwood back at the end of April, I was dreading this summer, and it's very much changed now. And I think people have well within the right to be excited about what's coming, but also at the same time not get too ahead of yourself and realise that this is the very start of it. It will take time. You don't build an exceptional football team overnight. Anyone will tell you that. That's the way football works. But be excited for what's coming, definitely, because it's new. It's all completely new now. This is a shiny, fresh football club that's going to look different in the coming years. And it's, as you pointed out yourself, with that horrendous title, they're not to be ignored at the moment.
I do it just to annoy you.
I know.
Listen, Ed, thanks so much for your insight on Burton Albion this afternoon. Really appreciate your time. Thanks to you for watching at home. This has been the EFL Debate Summer Deep Dive on the Brewers. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments how you think Burton Albion are going to get on this season. If you're listening on Spotify, do give us a review if you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you again with another Summer Deep Dive very soon.